That dopamine's supposed to reward you when you get something done that's good. But when it's not linked to something that you know is actually productive, it's really hard to actually then go back and work because you don't really have anything left to reward you. Welcome in. I assume the title of this video worked because you're here. Whenever we're feeling that natural instinct to do you know what, it's not hard to find the instinct to give in. But without even doing anything, we're punishing our bodies before it even gets to that point. The reason it's so easy to give in to these life-sucking energies is because of one main problem that's overseeing everything else. Dopamine, as a whole, is in short supply nowadays. It's constantly being drained and it's constantly being attacked by the people that want it from you because that's the primary currency. Big corporations want you to spend your dopamine, not just your money, because your dopamine is what brings you back to continue spending. It attaches an emotion of pleasure or a good sensation to what you're doing. Think of how hard it would be for a caveman or any of your ancestors to deplete dopamine. They relied on black and white TVs, newspapers, books, not Mr. Beast videos. The world was much more boring back then, and that's what made it great. Your brain could actually get a chance to rest when you were done with something. You're gonna wanna say that you can go out easily and limit yourself on how dopamine affects you, but it's easier said than done. And I'm gonna tell you, you definitely need some sort of help when you're getting started on changing your pattern of behavior. Most people don't even realize how dopamine affects your body and how you obtain it. I struggled with dopamine issues for years, and then I realized what this was doing to me in the long run, and that I need to pay more attention to how it's affecting me. But the true main problem is that dopamine is one currency used on many platforms. And while achieving a big win at work or at the gym is a huge release of dopamine for you and a good sensation, there's equally bad. Drugs, gambling, sexual pleasure, food, video games, these all affect how your brain responds to its environment and can drastically affect how much capacity your brain has later in the day when you're trying to get important tasks done. And we might think we're awesome because we don't partake in drugs, but we might do all the other things that are affecting the release of dopamine. So although the harmful effects of doing drugs are avoided for our physical body, our minds are equally as depleted. Think about the long-term implications of this. When everyone is so focused on their phone and scrolling and constantly just like a battery, slowly draining the amount of dopamine and function that their brain has to operate, they won't get anything done that's important. And then because their brain has no capacity, they rely on other people to tell them what they need to do, the way they need to think, what they need to wear, and how they're supposed to work. Social media, high energy addictions, pornography, things like this that drastically affect how our brain's energy functions as a whole will lead to us being essentially imprisoned in a society and the slave to people who are in control. So you need to do something now to fix it. Because if you don't, you're gonna continue to live a silhouette life and one that you're not truly in control of. I know you have goals, you wouldn't be here if you didn't, but in order to achieve those goals, you have to rely on having energy in your brain to be able to think about the complex problems you're gonna solve as a business owner. And that energy won't be there if you're depleting it on these things that are requiring your attention and your focus to be able to release or to feel good in the moment. And this is regardless of what porn actually does to your sexual desire and your attraction and your disgusting thoughts toward the opposite gender. So right now, I just want you to focus on the fact that dopamine is a currency. And you need to obtain it and not be constantly swiping that debit card and spending it on everything that throughout the week is going to give you pleasure. I want you to also realize how many sources of pleasure and dopamine release there are. You going to the fridge to get a soda is simply you saying, regardless of the physical health deficiencies that come from that, yes, I want to enjoy something in the moment, and that little food pleasure is going to deplete a little bit of my dopamine where I won't have any to release when I actually want to work on something that's productive. Literally, like if you're a dude, think of it the same way as porn, right? You're releasing at the end of, this session of you enjoying yourself, right? And the same thing is happening in your brain. Your brain's essentially getting off in the same way, and it's releasing the energy that it has. So when you actually then try to do something right after, imagine think of yourself after sex or masturbating, you can't get anything done because you have nothing left to give. So how do you get that dopamine back? Because that's truly the source of this issue, and that's how we move forward. Well, there's two options really if you look at it from a black and white perspective. There's cutting it off completely, and then there's moderating it. So the first, cold turkey. This is how you do it. So I want you to take a day, no video games, no TikTok, no sugar, no stimulus, nothing that's gonna make you feel good that's coming from outside of you. Notice how hard it is to simply exist when you do that. I did this and I realized, damn, I have an actual problem. It's so hard to put my phone down and just sit in my bed and think about all the problems I have to think of without wanting to go watch a YouTube video, without wanting to scroll on TikTok. Removing the pleasure is not pleasurable. Removing apps from your phone, right, that you know are just a waste of your time and are just there to entertain you. And, replacing hard items like TikTok with reading is a really hard thing to do because your brain can drastically compare these two things. And it's saying TikTok is here and a book is here. I don't like this book thing because I can get way more excitement from the TikTok thing. So first, doing that for, a day or more even, as long as you can do it before realizing that you need dopamine, is the first sign to conquering your addiction for it. Once you've done that, I'd move into the second phase, tapering. Restrict, but not cut off, the amount of dopamine you release in a day. I want you to limit key things that are gonna be important in your life. So I need you to go look at what you actually do in a day first. If you have a schedule like Google Calendar, like I do, go through and look at the events that you are doing each day and what times in between those you are scrolling or not doing anything productive. I made a shortcut on my phone. I went to the Shortcuts app, typed in settings, and then I went to the color grading mode, and I made a shortcut to turn my phone in black and white and a shortcut to turn it back into normal color. And when I click the black and white shortcut, my phone goes black and white. It's almost scary how fast I realize that I don't really want my phone anymore. Those colors and the blue light coming straight into my brain and frying it, and my brain responding by saying, yes, this feels good. This is pleasurable for my brain. That makes me just want to keep doing it more and more. And when I cut off that, release by telling my brain that this isn't as exciting as it seems, my brain says, okay, let's find something more exciting. Or I can take that energy and apply it to something where I will feel a sense of accomplishment because I'm getting something truly beneficial done. But when I turned my phone in black and white mode, at first, it was really fucking hard. I found it difficult to go on Instagram because it just wasn't the same. I tried TikTok, it also just wasn't the same. I also got blue light glasses for my computer, so when I use my computer, I'm not getting the same blue light effect and the equal release that's coming from that I normally would. And I realized that I won't be distracted to go off of, the script I'm writing and go on YouTube and watch something that I think is educational, but it's really just a waste of time. Also, budget. Literally, like you would with a bank account, budget your dopamine for the day. Look at your calendar and realize what events are gonna be the most draining from your brain's energy. I want you to hit the hard things first at the beginning of the day. Even if you have to wake up an hour and a half before you go to work, like I've said before, do the hard thing then while you're still waking up, because even if your brain's not, as active as it would be, your brain has more energy at that point, and it's likely you're gonna get more done and also feel that sense of accomplishment so that you can ride that the rest of the day and continue to be productive. It's really hard when you realize that your dopamine was released on Instagram to go back then and say, I need to get work done, because you didn't already have accomplishment. That dopamine's supposed to reward you when you get something done that's good. But when it's not linked to something that you know is actually productive, it's really hard to actually then go back and work because you don't really have anything left to reward you. So there's apps that can limit your screen time, limit what apps you use, and even just tell you to breathe or take a break for 15 minutes. I'd recommend finding ones that work for you. If you have an iPhone, the best ways to remove, pornography or high dopamine videos or the TikTok energy is to go to your settings, and I wrote down, go to screen time, content and privacy restrictions, content restrictions, and then go to web content, and you can limit specific types of web content as well as specific websites that you like to go to on your phone. I actually had to do this coming out of high school because I was really just addicted to going on my phone when I was bored and, releasing because I had nothing better to do. And when I actually prevented by a hard block from myself doing that, then at least the bare minimum, right? You're gonna go turn it off. It at least gets you to think about the fact that you did this for a reason. And it makes you less likely in the future to go back and do it again. So if you're just saying, yeah, I can get around that, when I'm feeling like doing it anyway, I don't know what the point is. it makes you think, because a lot of these things happen without you realizing it. You don't realize how much screen time you have a day until you check it. You don't realize how many times you're on Instagram or how many reels you've seen until somebody actually told you. Here's another tip. Pick a number between 1 and 5. For the next week, unfollow that many of accounts that post promos for OnlyFans or show constant adult content, or the half-naked models. And I want you to add that equal amount of accounts that promote knowledge or success in your craft. I like to add discipline promotion videos or stories that follow entrepreneurs, or tips for marketing or networking that I can learn from and use again in my content. But the real trick isn't realizing that you can re-spend the time that you're doing on this. It's that you'll be more bored. And that's a good thing, because boredom is kind of what sparks any sort of innovation or action. When you realize you have time to do something, you're gonna realize that there are things you want to do. And when there's things you want to do, you're gonna start finding out ways to make them happen if you have the time to do it. And you give yourself that time by not wanting to spend it on something else. And that makes you equally as enthusiastic about promoting whatever idea you want to push. So use the artificial limitations, use the budgeting apps, use the ways to block the rush from coming into your brain that you can. And do I even need to say, if you're subscribed to OnlyFans, if you follow a bunch of models on Instagram that are giving nothing to you, and if you're constantly having these apps or these accounts for pornography, you need to make a change. And it might just seem like I'm on the other side of a screen telling you this, but I was also there too, right? Everyone is a teenager at some point. Everyone gets involved in those things, and everyone at some point, hopefully, by the end of this video at least, realizes the true harm that it's causing. And I can go about the relationship effects and how it drastically, again, affects your connection with women and those around you as a man, but I'm not gonna tell you that because you don't need that lecture. You just need to know that it's a bad limit to have to only want to do it for this long a day. You need to cut it out completely. Think of it like a weed, right? That's rooted underground, but you're just cutting off the head above ground. It's gonna keep growing back, and it's gonna be strong every time until you actually go into the deep layer, pull out the true problem at the source, and get rid of it completely. I want you to heal the trauma you've caused yourself. And you probably don't want to admit that you have it, but when you stop releasing dopamine and when you stop giving your brain such a huge pleasure boost from watching porn or a video or some sort of exhilarating event online, instead of using it for good and production toward what you want to do as a whole, you're not going to be able to be the person you want. And with that said, you won't live the life you want to lead. If you're looking for help that comes from beyond this video, or you have special circumstances, or you have a business idea that you want to start, and maybe this isn't even a problem for you, and you just need more help getting there, I'm literally right now offering free help. I don't have a click funnel, I don't have a bunch of ads, I'm not gonna ask for all your emails and stuff. Just go in the link in the description and set up a call with me, and I'll meet with you as soon as I have an opening. For up to 30 minutes, I just want to help as many of you as I can while I have a small community by giving you tips about how we can move forward and find a path that's best for your success. So again, if you have an interest in just meeting and talking through some ideas for your business or how you can actually get better and more effective as a business owner, then hit that link in the description. Follow me, guys, like this video, and I'll see you next time.